Welcome to Immediate Review, where we can't see movies in theaters, but we still review them immediately in Dakota's house. At least that's where we are today. And we just saw...
Ralph Bakshi's The Lord of the Rings.
So we just watched the animated Hobbit from 1977. It was the other day. I don't think it was yesterday, but days all blend together when you're quarantined and the world is all fucked.
So we're continuing our animated Middle Earth marathon. Once again, I've seen this movie a bunch. Peter has never seen it.
Never seen this at all.
So what'd you think?
I mean, honestly, it was better than I expected.
Yeah.
Like I thought it was gonna be like The Hobbit, and there's been a number of songs and stuff that I thought were from this one that were actually from the Return of the King. So this one was honestly pleasantly surprising and incredibly similar to Peter Jackson's. You can tell he was heavily inspired by this.
It's a fact. When you listen to his audio commentary, he's constantly talking about Ralph Bakshi, the director, and there's over, I lost count, there's 30 plus shots that are just directly recreated in the live action Lord of the Rings, or staged like it.
Yeah, so it was really decent. I think the second half is rushed a bit. And it kind of highlights why Peter Jackson kind of split it into the 3 blocks that he did, where this one it seems like
reworking the story structure the way he did.
Yeah. Because I haven't read the books, so I don't know the actual framework.
The structure is totally different, so you're spot on there. I really liked the animation in this one. They did some cool stuff where they drew over real film, where they filmed people and then kind of animated over it. I think that the ring wraiths looked fucking excellent. Yeah, they're creepy as hell.
That style worked really well, and we had kind of talked about it a little bit while we were watching the movie. But I think that it makes sense that they were able to go with this kind of gangly style, because that's kind of how Golem is, and it would make sense that the ring wraiths would mimic that kind of structure. But in Peter Jackson's, these guys have to basically be intimidating and whatnot, and they have to stand up against Viggo Mortensen and Orlando Bloom, and just these big staunchy strong actors, and so the black hard metal armor and things like that makes much more sense that they did it that way. But I really liked the kind of brown cloaked kind of gremlin style that the ring wraiths had. It was really unique, and they kind of gave them some interesting powers in this one too. They could go invisible, and they could gas people, and they could knock people unconscious by pointing at them.
Those were odd. I'd never noticed those before, really.
And and in terms of the animation, I think that the backgrounds in this were, at least in the first half. The second half, it gets kind of muddy, especially when they start getting into the backgrounds for Helm's Deep.
I thought
especially the orc backgrounds, when it's outside, it's kind of just a but it's just kind of a swampland, so it's not really meant to be anything super crazy. But Two Towers is I won't say it's my favorite, because they're all my favorite of Peter Jackson's, you know what I mean? It's whichever one I watch is, but that one just I don't know, the extended edition just like holds a special place, and so like seeing it rushed like kind of hurt a little bit watching this one.
Version, especially
Yeah.
since they like. I was thinking about it, and there are certain scenes like Bree where they're just giving a lot of time to and like
Yeah.
doing the scene pretty good justice, and then later on they're just like, oh, King Theoden, like Eowyn,
They kind of
Worm
just
Tongue, here's a bunch of characters, let's get to it.
yeah.
Like,
But the animation, I think, kind of, it doesn't make up for it, but at least, like, it was more enjoyable to watch, just these sequences and whatnot play out, more than The Hobbit, like, the Battle of the Five Armies, or, in the animated Hobbit, like, it wasn't super.
oh, it was like cloud dust.
Yeah,
and,
like it wasn't. Yeah, super fantastic. Like it was what it was. But,
So
yeah.
So yeah, the animation style in this, it's the live action rotoscope, where basically every person, they film live action and then they just trace over it, and yeah, it just gives them a lot smoother animations. Sometimes it looks a little more awkward, but like on Gandalf especially, just like when he's like sauntering over with his staff, he just looks so good every time. And then sometimes they do this thing where they kind of they don't quite trace over them. They like film it in black and white, and then like adjust the exposure, and then colorize it, and it just looks so odd and unsettling. But I don't know, like in a it's I don't know, it's charming in a way, but it's very weird. So possible cut. Person A, do you want to say your real quick what you think of the animation and the style, because you didn't like it? What do you think of it?
Okay, so in the beginning, a lot of the backgrounds and stuff are really well painted. Like, I can understand where, like, how people have been inspired by the just the background paintings. But the animation itself, I absolutely hated, especially the thing, the whole overlaying real people thing, which was kind of cool in a couple shots, but then in other times it just looked freaking silly. Like the orcs, like you can tell they're just dudes.
Well, the orcs were the exposure trick.
That's what I mean. The exposure trick, or I couldn't tell what the difference was between the exposure trick and the other. It just, they both looked bad. I wasn't particularly a fan. And also just like certain story elements, like Sam's a goofy goober, and Boromir has no character, and all that kind of stuff.
Well, yeah, person A has spoken. But yeah, it's got a really unique animation style that I find endearing, and like The Hobbit just has such a cheap animation style that looks like a lot of 70s movies where they don't even animate 24 frames per second. They just like cut corners and maybe animate like, I don't know, 6 or 7 frames of the 24, and just, I don't know, it's this one, there's just a lot more effort behind it. And so I think even when it looks like really awkward and weird, it's just, you could tell it was really hard to make, and I don't know, there's just, it's enjoyable. And yeah, I think overall I really like watching it to see how it inspired Peter Jackson, because you could just tell that he just watched this movie a million times and basically remade it. In fact, when he was originally, Lord of the Rings was going to be 2 movies, the first one was basically going to be this film. and then he was going to continue part 2 with what was going to happen. But
I'm glad he expanded it, because this one like rushes a lot.
yeah, well, his would have been probably 3 hours as well, but it still wouldn't have been as good.
Yeah. So yeah, I was trying to think about how we were going to lay this out after general thoughts, and like I really feel like the only way to do it is to do a comparison, like walk through the scenes and compare like what we think.
The intro scene is the One Ring to rule them all in the introduction. Immediately you can sense the inspiration for the Galadriel voiceover.
But Galadriel just like murders it.
Of course.
Like
it is
like guaranteed one of the best opening narrations ever done in cinema. Like it's so fucking good. And yeah, it was definitely inspired by this, but you can tell that it just like I just wanted to hear her talk.
Yeah, I get that. I saw this after I saw the first one, but yeah, the way they do it is it's really interesting. It's like an all red background, and you just kind of see the shadows, like the silhouettes.
Yeah, the red
of Isildur and Sauron, and some of the shots are really really good, but others are kind of silly. When Gollum pops out, it's ridiculous.
Gollum.
Well, not even animated Gollum. I mean, when they're doing the intro, when Gollum comes out with his big frickin' hands, that's when it's like, this is why they shot this animated in the 70s. Yeah, so the intro. I love the intro. I think the intro is my absolute favorite part, honestly. I don't know. It's just
of this, with the narration and everything of the
Lord of the Rings.
The animated one we just watched.
Yeah,
that's your favorite part of the whole movie.
It is, dude.
Really?
Yeah, man.
That is like it's super surprising.
Why?
Man.
Why?
Like, I don't know. I just like. I don't know that like yeah go on.
I think it's because of this was the first Lord of the Rings movie, and this basically, like I said, I really enjoy this movie for how it inspired Peter Jackson, and like that's an important choice, and like I don't know, just Lord of the Rings would not be what it is without this movie, and seeing just like a 70s introduction, it's like when I watch an older movie that inspired Tarantino, and I can just like see that exact scene that did it. It's just like, I don't know, the feeling when Lord of the Rings starts is similar, and I don't know, I just enjoy the beginning. But I guess if we're just talking sequences, I mean, yeah, it's obviously not the best.
Well, and yeah, I was just like, I don't know, my thoughts were just like, yeah, I like Galadriel, I want to hear her, and then you're like, oh yeah, it's like my favorite, and it's like, oh damn.
Oh well, but that doesn't mean it's better. Peter Jackson's is better in almost every single way. It's just it's the truth. I don't know, but this one is just, it's fun, it's interesting. It's laughably cheesy at times, but it's also just pure Tolkien other times. And it's just more adult, there's blood, there's, I don't know, it's not like the Hobbit is just like such a,
it is very much made for kids.
Yeah, it is such a like kids are dumb movie. I don't know, people might be mad I'm gonna say that, because a lot of it
it's true. Fuck you. I'm sorry. If you like the animated Hobbit, you probably saw it when you were a kid, and you're looking at it through nostalgia goggles, because that movie is a piece of shit. And if you haven't read The Hobbit lately, yes, it's more faithful to the book, but re-examine the book. It is definitely a kid's book, and it is definitely an old kid's book. It's like, this happened, and then this happened, and then this happened, and here's the most simplistic descriptions ever. And Tolkien even said, like, He wished he could have, like, he wrote it super fast. Like, he wished he could have rewritten it. It was a gift for a kid's birthday, like, but yeah, it's just like, he even said after that he wanted more depth added to it, and I understand why, because the original story is very much a kid's story.
We'll save that for another video.
Yeah, but don't say depth in front of Golem in this movie.
Oh yeah, Golem is a weird, creepy sexual predator.
Oh, Golem. Oh,
yeah.
Princess.
Oh my god.
Oh, master. Oh, master.
Golem is weird in this.
He was fucking
Not
weirdly
cool,
sexual, and like I don't think that was just like
He was like
us.
licking Frodo's feet.
Yeah, and like he goes to like kiss Master's feet, and then he's like, "Oh,
Licking it.
Master."
No, yeah, and he like
It's weird.
and he rolls around and is always like, oh, and touching himself.
There was
like,
one scene we pointed out where he's standing there like trying to tell him to come through the marsh as Frodo's like going like this, and he's just
Keeps moving his hands.
Okay,
like it was fucking really weird.
we got off track though, so you know what?
We don't get off track at immediate review. Okay,
No, we do.
we
do.
stay on track.
That's what happens when we do it immediately, is we get off track. But I got a copy of Lord of the Rings right here. So, long expected party, Bilbo's party. Again, just like it's basically storyboards for the Fellowship of the Ring. What'd you think of how they did Bilbo's party?
I mean, yeah, it's basically the same. I think Peter Jackson did it better because you know he showcases that he actually walks through the village, where this one it could be interpreted as teleportation. That's what the ring gives him. But if you've seen The Hobbit, you know it's an invisibility ring, so doesn't necessarily need to be explained, but at the same time, if you don't have any knowledge at all, you could interpret it as a teleportation ring.
Yeah, the cut is awkward. I remember thinking that when I was a kid. The hobbits in Bilbo's party scene do suspiciously look like Bilbo in Rankin and Bass's The Hobbit. I never really noticed before.
There are similarities, yeah.
But yeah, and then Shadow of the Past, when Gandalf and Frodo discuss the ring. Ralph Bakshi doesn't have Frodo immediately talking to Gandalf after Bilbo disappears. But yeah, their conversation about the ring and stuff is really fucking good and well done in the movie. And yeah, it's just I don't know, it just feels straight out of the book. Yeah, I don't know. What do you think?
I mean, I think I was into it until it was just like, and then 10 years passed in the
17
Shire.
years
Yeah,
passed.
it's just like, just casually throws that out there. And so again, I like Peter Jackson's changes that make it, start happening like it's actually important.
No, yeah, it's true. This one is more like quote unquote faithful to the book, definitely. There are a lot of like silly things that are from Tolkien's book, and yeah, Gandalf waiting 17 years to do something is definitely one of them. And then so Sam, we're introduced to Sam. He's a fucking doof. He's a doofy
Yeah,
goober.
he's a doof in this. Super goobery and just like weird looking, and yeah, is not developed or isn't even really a good character.
He's used for comic relief, but like we're meant to laugh at him.
Yeah, it's like we're not laughing with him.
Where Sam is like more heroic he's like lovable and then heroic.
Yeah, and then we have this rise and fall too, where he is like very unsure of himself, but rises to the occasion for his friend, and then is like abusive towards Gollum, and you don't know if like who's in the right, and then it turns out Sam was good the whole time.
So Three's Company in the book, they don't meet up with Mary for a while, and it's just the three of them. This one, it's just all four of them right out the gate.
Yep.
Yeah, it's like immediately like, go get your cousins, and then he goes and gets his cousins, and then they're just there.
No Tom Bombadil.
Yeah, there's no Tom Bombadil,
Thank God.
just like Peter Jackson's. And then we see the ring raids for the first time, and yeah, it's a great little sequence.
Yeah, loved it.
That was recreated for the live action one, and yeah, it's still really effective in this movie as well.
Yeah, even with the gangly ring wraiths, it all works in both regards. The completely black horse, like just full silhouette with just the eyes, super cool.
And the gray cloak is kind of I don't know. It's like a muddy grayish cloak. It's not all black. It's
it's like, I mean, it looked like greeny brown to me, like kind of just like a earth tone.
So Prancing Pony, this is when we see the first like live action footage. It's probably my least favorite use of it in the movie.
Yeah, a lot of this scene didn't really make sense to me. Like how the ring gets onto his finger.
Frodo jumping on the table and singing the song and then falling off in the ring. That's from the book, and yeah, it doesn't really make sense. It's like, was he playing with it or what?
Yeah.
Like,
he just had it out.
And yeah, the whole interaction with like us meeting Aragorn for the first time was just kind of a little. I guess I just liked the sense of suspense that gets built in Peter Jackson's, where this one is kind of
the voice actor for Aragorn is kind of he's dull, I think, honestly.
And yeah, this is when we get to see the ring wraiths have the ability to gas people and make them unconscious. So they do that, and then we get the same scene of them attacking the beds and whatnot, which I thought was done well, even with them being all gangly and whatnot. But yeah, after that, what's next once they leave?
So then they leave and they run into Legolas.
Yeah.
In the book, it's a character called Glorfindel who never shows up again after that encounter. And then in the live action one, they made it Arwen. And for this one, they made it Legolas, which is a sensible change, considering Legolas doesn't have much to do. Fun fact, Anthony Daniels, who played C-3PO, voices Legolas in this. We had no idea till we just saw it in the credits, but super cool. And then so, yeah, Frodo, he gets stabbed by the Morgul blade. And
but so that scene, we get them we get the wraiths as the
yes,
as the and they kind of have
that's
their,
right. That's
their
the
like
first
animation
time.
And
the live action, because most of it is the actual animation, and they get rid of the live action footage. Where that one, they leave the live action footage in and just animate like around and over it.
Yeah, and they kind of give them like crazy helmets and stuff. Some of them look like Shogun helmets.
Those are the
like
best ones.
Cool.
The ring rates look super freaking cool.
They looked really good.
And so in this, Frodo, just like in the book, Frodo has more energy and more kind of consciousness while getting stabbed with the Morgul blade, and so he rides on his own.
Yeah.
And I like the change in the live action that they have Arwen do it, because it's like he doesn't know where the fuck Rivendell is. I guess it's like the horse knows, but I don't know, maybe. And then the river comes and wipes out the ring wraiths, because Arwen's there and says the enchantment where...
Well, I mean, let's be honest. Like, even if it wasn't a Morgul blade and Frodo gets stabbed by it, it's like, that's still gonna fucking suck. Like riding is gonna be shitty regardless. Like,
but they do that scene really well with the live action footage, and it's great. And then we get to Rivendell. I don't like the design for Rivendell at all in this movie. I don't like. Do you even remember it?
Nope.
Yeah, it's not memorable.
I mean, it's like I think I like vaguely remember it, but I just remember like kind of colors and washed out backgrounds.
We'll post some photos.
Yeah, we have that ability.
But we've already been doing it. But yeah, I really don't like the way Rivendell is, and Elrond just doesn't look like an elf.
Yeah, he looks like just a
Roman.
he's just a dude.
He does look like a Roman.
And I mean, in the live action, it's like they're it's like obviously they're just people, but it's like this one he he just looks like the white version of the Native American Aragorn that we have in this one.
So the Council of Elrond, super lame in this movie.
Yeah, super lame.
Yeah.
Forgettable.
Frodo revealing the ring isn't very epic. Like,
Sam showing up, he's kind of just like demands to go, and it's just like, oh great, look what you got us into, Frodo.
It's like you literally
you wanted to
go. Like Gandalf to let you go.
Yeah. And yeah, everything in it is done very poorly. I don't know, it's like the Council of Elrond, it's the longest chapter in the entire book. There's a lot of stuff. And so you can only have so much in the movie. And I just feel like they chose some of the wrong stuff, like Bilbo explaining that he'll do it, and then them telling Bilbo that, no, you can't do it.
Yeah.
It's like, no, you don't need to do that. In fact, just don't have him at the meeting.
Yeah, and it's like, I mentioned that while we were watching, and I was like, why would they even have him there? It's like, literally, they all know that he's fucking gone ring mad, and would only give
ring mad, I know. Right?
Yeah, like, the only advice that he would give the Fellowship is advice that would likely lead him to getting the ring.
Yeah,
that's bad. It's like it's bad counsel.
Yeah, and it's straight out of the book, but just that doesn't mean it should be in the movie. Yeah, so Council of Elrond, not great. And then the ring goes south. This is when things start to get rushed. Up until this point, like, the movie is doing a pretty decent job at the exposition and whatnot, and the characters, and with exception, but.
And so yeah, we basically get rushed explanation of like who the people in the Fellowship are, and we don't even really know who like Boromir is at all. We just know he's some like this bearded Viking man.
Yeah, Boromir's like a Viking. Gimli is the most uninspired dwarf ever. He looks like, what'd you call him?
Gimlink. Yeah, because he had a big old like green like link hat, and I was just like, that's what he's wearing. I was like, he's Gimlink. Yeah.
Elrond looks closest to kind of, or Elrond, sorry. Excuse me. Legolas looks kind of closest to what's sort of in Peter Jackson's movie, but goofier. I don't know. The eyes on Legolas are just so unsettling.
His eyes are such a weird angle. Like you even mentioned that it looks like he belongs in like a Beavis and Butthead short or something like that. Like he's just some dorky fucking dude they run into on the street, and they're just like, oh. And yeah, like it's so weird, but yeah. Facial animations.
And then I dig Aragorn overall, but like you said, they struggle to make him a badass. Like they show him fail a lot more than they show him succeed.
Yeah, like both times that he goes to save Frodo, like at the very beginning, like the first two times Frodo gets stabbed, both times, like more than one stabbing. Well, like he gets the Morgul blade, and he gets like stabbed when they get to Moria, but we haven't gotten to that yet.
So yeah, the ring goes south. They have it has the passive Karathras.
Yeah, and they rush through that. Like it's literally like it hard cuts, and it's like they're arguing, and then
they argue a bit, and then Mines of Moria, bam.
Yeah. and they're already there.
Well, because they don't. We didn't talk about Gandalf visiting Aruman, or Saruman. My bad. Yeah. So in this movie, basically,
Oh, the
I
pronunciation.
didn't really like this scene too much, to tell you the truth.
the story goes that the producers thought it'd be confusing that there's Sauron and Saruman, so they wanted to change Saruman to Aruman, but halfway through they realized it was a bad idea. But they had already recorded a bunch of dialogue and weren't going to have it redone. So throughout the movie, it switches between calling him Saruman and Aruman. And it's ridiculous. In fact, overall throughout the film, everything is mispronounced. There are very few names and places that are correctly pronounced in this movie. But it's still great.
It's still great.
It's still great, you know.
It's a real Hollywood movie.
I mean, I guess.
So yeah, they open the door.
The Kraken closes the door.
The watcher in the water.
See, it's that kind of like.
Yeah, grabs Frodo, and and then in the live action movie we get a big long extended awesome fight sequence and no one gave a shit. But fucking
the Balrog looks like a man, bear, pig, lion thing.
Yeah.
It was like, it looked weird, man. Like
It looked like a Greek mythology
just
reject.
so when they get into the Mines of Moria, I do like the background designs a lot. And then they get in the room and the first fight happens and we see the live action orcs, and the live action orcs they don't look good.
No.
they really don't. They're just like, they're either like horned like devil people or like just 8 monkey masks.
monkey masks.
and wearing they're like Tusken Raider sand people from Star Wars.
In terms of the way that their eyes and everything are painted over to look like glowing red, and then they've got like hoods, and it's
and it's just, I know it's unfair to sometimes to compare it to the live action one. It's just so inspired. The live action one is so inspired by this that it's hard not to, but yeah, seeing live action orcs just puts this so to shame, unlike anything else in the movie.
And yeah, the fight sequence that they do in the live action one is like, drawn out, excellent. The orc or the troll, the cave troll, is the one that stabs Frodo, and not just some random spear that is thrown. And like, again, Aragorn like goes to try to save him and just gets his shit kicked out of him, and then gets his shit kicked out of him again, and the guy just throws a spear and like impales Frodo. It's like, Aragorn is a bad protector, like through half of this fucking movie.
He is. Lothlorien, goofy in my opinion, honestly. The character design for Galadriel.
Yeah, and Galadriel's like her
high cheekbone Barbie.
And her like test of just like, I would like it. She treats the whole thing like a joke. And it's like, just, I've passed the test. It's like, was that really like a tough test for you, lady? Like, you just literally just pranced around and basically just patronized fucking Frodo of like, oh, it's such a burden. Like,
so in this they have Sam with him.
Yeah, which was weird.
Yeah, well, I think they do it because, Tolkien knew that Frodo and Sam were going to be the ones together at the end. Which I think is nice, but I think it is really effective to have Frodo do it alone, because then it's more surprising when Sam does turn out to be, his ride or die.
Yeah, there's some love there.
So yeah, Mirror of Galadriel is, I do like the effects of the mirror. They do a lot of interesting optical effects throughout the movie. The movie is really ambitious and creative. Farewell to Lorien is rushed. The Great River rushed.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, they both happen in one cut.
Yeah, and it kind of just rushes through until we get to the statues.
Breaking of the Fellowship. We get Boromir's scene where he tries to take the ring from Frodo, and it's very much like the...
and they kind of have this thing where they like vacate the camp. Where it's just like, oh, well, you will have your time and you will be alone.
Yeah,
like
it's from the book, yeah.
Okay. So, yeah.
And
then
they
Boromir
give him an hour.
Yeah, and then Boromir comes back and is like, give it to me!
And the departure of Boromir. Yeah, and then Boromir just stumbles, when they're looking for Frodo, stumbles in on the Uruk-hai camp. Pretty sure, yeah, that's what happens in the book as well. And they steal Merry and Pippin. Yeah, all that was fairly well done. You could tell heavily inspired the movie.
Yeah, Boromir he pulled 3 fucking broadhead arrows out of his chest. Like, you're not supposed to do that. If you get shot with an arrow, you leave it in. Because if you pull it out, you're gonna bleed to death. Especially broadheads. They twist as they're going in. Don't pull them out.
So we see the Uruk-hai, live action footage of the Uruk-hai, and I really like the backgrounds and when they do the red color palettes and stuff. And yeah, they have the Uruk-hai talk, and it's interesting. It's not as good.
Yeah.
And then we meet Smeagol.
We meet Smeagol.
Oh my! What's your nose, Smeagol?
You're not. That's not. He almost speaks in a refined British.
Yeah, and so he's weird. He looks like an immortal vampire, like elder who hasn't drank blood in like 1,000 years or something like that. It's like
he makes Andy Serkis look completely normal and not weird at all.
Yeah, and he's kind of he's pervy a little bit. Like he's kind of all about Frodo. He wants to get up on Frodo. He's like, Master. And, like kisses his feet and shit. It's weird. Check it out if you don't believe me.
The marshes are well done, except there's a lot of trees and bushes.
And it's rushed too. Like they don't really focus on a lot of stuff. It's kind of they just cut to it like in the midst of like all of the getting ready for Helm's Deep, essentially. Because I even mentioned, I was like, are they like gonna cut back to Frodo and like what's going on?
Oh yeah, there's literally one tiny scene per chapter.
Yeah, and most of it is just focused on kind of getting everything ready for Helm's Deep, and then they kind of they don't have the warg battle or anything like that. The wargs don't chase or attack the encampment as they're trying to move to Helm's Deep.
Yeah, that wasn't in the book.
Yep. And then they're basically they
quickly free Theoden, and we don't even know who the fuck Theoden is at this point. I don't even think they say the name. It's just that guy's a king. We got to save him.
Yeah, and then Aragorn and they go out to try to find the other group, and then they're at Helm's Deep and the orcs show up. It's like it's pretty quick.
Yeah, it doesn't even explain why they go to Helm's Deep, and it's literally they just take their army to Helm's Deep.
Yeah.
And it's like, that's where the war is. Instead, it's so rushed, poorly done, really kills the momentum of the film, honestly.
Yeah. And Helm's Deep, the bomb isn't set. Saruman, he like
Aruman.
Aruman, he like throws. So he like I don't know. He summons it. Like he just summons some spell from the sky that comes down and destroys the castle, or something like that.
Yep.
It's not a planted like gunpowder bomb or anything like that. But yeah, I haven't read the book, so I don't know what's real there. But I like the way that Peter Jackson did it better than because it's like if the wizards have that kind of power, like
that's what it is in the book too. He has it's not magic. It's like it talks about it mystically. It's like he's developed some sort of thing, like, you know, explode. I can't remember the verbiage, but yeah, it's what happens in the live action version is closer to the book than this.
And so once that happens, they all retreat, and then they kind of just chill out in the room until the king decides that he's not gonna sit anymore and that he wants them to sound the horn so they can all ride out together.
Yeah, they sound the horn, and then like the Uruk-hai just immediately run away.
Yeah,
like it was ridiculous. And then after they run away, I guess they stop and then decide to fight a bit. And then Gandalf comes down.
Once they're surrounded, and Aragorn just screams out, "Gandalf!" And then he appears, and all the orcs run away, and they win. And apparently, they win forever.
Forever,
because
it says the first part. And so on Frodo's end, we miss the Black Gate. They don't have herbs and stewed rabbit. No Faramir. And they talk about, it looks like they're on the edge of Mordor based on the like background paintings.
Yeah, they're like heading towards where the first, you know, the secret path essentially, that like it's after the whole town and the encounter with the ring wraith, and it skips all of that, like the pond, everything.
Yep. And so and Gollum mutters to himself about Shelob, and Frodo and Sam saunter off, and then Gandalf cuts back to Helm's Deep. Gandalf throws his sword in the air, and then the announcer goes, "And so ends the first part of the Lord of the Rings." And then part 2 was never made. Well, it was kind of made, but not really.
We'll be reviewing that one.
Yeah. Next. So Ralph Bakshi apparently was just so sick of working with producers and hated the team he was with, or not the team he was with, but basically the people he would have to make the movie for so much he just didn't make the movie. And
I can respect that.
A lot of people wish he did, man. A lot of people are really upset. There's a small fan base that's still campaigning for Ralph Bakshi to make his movie, and he said he'd produce.
Sounds like the Hellboy franchise. Everybody just wants Guillermo del Toro's final vision.
You know, it's hard for me to say because part of me thinks it's just been too long, but then the other part of me is just like, I don't know, you know, fuck it, why not? Yeah, make your animated Lord of the Rings sequel.
I mean, if he's still around to do it, I mean, animation's gotten so much better nowadays.
Well, one
computer.
One problem is it would be very similar to Peter Jackson's because this movie actually has everything that's in the live action Fellowship in Two Towers. They basically end at the same point, which is Gollum going like, "Oh, I'll send her to Smeagol," and then Helm's Deep, them winning, and like, so if Ralph Bakshi was to make a part 2, it would essentially be Return of the King. I mean,
sense.
I'd still like to see it, but I could just see that being a big, you know, like, you want us to make an animated Lord of the Rings, like a sequel that a lot of people haven't seen.
Right.
But yeah, it's a landmark film in many ways, but it's also a forgotten classic that I think out of all of them deserves to be dusted off. You know, people talk about fucking the Rankin and Bass Hobbit so fondly, and it gets brought up frequently as just like the real adaptation. But I highly recommend checking out Lord of the Rings over it.
Yeah, I was pleasantly surprised with this one. It's kind of like a speed reel of like all of the some of the cooler stuff from Peter Jackson's version, and Yeah, like there's a bunch of stuff that's like directly recreated that you can just look at and be like, man, like that looks exactly like the way that, you know, like the fact that Peter Jackson was able to do those recreations without, you know, drawing, like create those sets is very, very cool.
It's just like Lord of the Rings would the trilogy movie would not be what it is without this.
Yeah.
Like
it's true, somebody had to do it first.
Yeah.
And it explains why Peter Jackson's is so good, because it had this like amazing framework and this amazing source material that it could pull from, and any time that it had like something that it was like, oh well, what about like something here that we you know, something cool, what can we do, they had so much that they could, you know, pull from to make that happen. And it's like you know, I view it as like an extension, you know, not as its own separate entity.
Yeah, I do too. All right, so Person A, you've been playing lots of Skyrim. Any last words you want to say about Ralph Bakshi's Lord of the Rings?
It's better than Rankin Bass's take on Return of the King and The Hobbit. So for that, I give it respect. And also for inspiring Peter Jackson.
But
overall, it's not something that I would like watch on my own.
For sure. I definitely do still got a bit of you know, fond memories of this one, because I watched this one as a kid a lot too. But this one as an adult has aged much better. It's there are things about it I appreciate as an adult more so than I did as a kid, where The Hobbit I just fucking cringe at, and I'm just like, my God, I was stupid for watching this.
I will give it major props for creativity as well.
Yeah, it is super creative. But yeah, I recommend people check this one out if you haven't. HH for sure. Let us know what you think of this one.
So up next is The Return of the King. Rankin and Bass decided to step in and do Return of the King. And what's pretty funny is, since, you know, Shelob and confronting Aruman and a lot of that stuff happens in the Two Towers book, they only had rights to the Return of the King book. So this movie just, it feels completely separated from Ralph Bakshi's. Like they don't even connect at all.
Legally cannot connect.
Legally cannot connect. Well, here's what's funny that they didn't know is that there are literally timelines in the appendices that say in a simple sentence, Frodo and Sam visit Shelob. They could have easily fucking used that as justification, but they didn't know that. Yeah. But anyways, that's what we're reviewing. You know, one day we're going to post other videos. Peace.